Welcome in to Innovative Strategies with Bill Haase. This is the business voice of Chicago for you. Today, Lego for business.
Lego for business. Hey,
That's it.
did we get a new music director?
I think so, yeah.
And that was a different early music.
Well, yeah, we got a little countdown in there, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We've got some new things happening here at the 216 Creator Studio, so it's going to be...
Yeah.
People are going to get blown away.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah.
Probably. Well, good morning, Kent. Good to see you.
Hey, good to be
back from a little trip. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. It was a good week.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, we do have a good announcement here. This show has been picked up by iHeartMedia.
iHeartRadio.
They changed their name.
Oh, did they?
They were iHeartRadio. They're now called
they're
iHeartMedia because they're into so many different things. But
it's exciting.
We're going to share this. We'll continue to do things the way we've always done them, but we'll be sharing them with iHeartMedia.
Another platform that reaches. I don't know. They've got a 50 million person reach.
Probably every bit of that. So we'll get on 12 more different platforms.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes and what happens. But
buckle up and enjoy the ride.
But we're growing.
There you go.
So and hopefully helping 216 the net grow as well.
That's it.
Along with that, hey, another shout out. We lost an amazing person.
Yes.
Tony Bennett, and I've seen him in concert, and what's not to love about the man?
Amazing musician, a crooner in that era. And, if you're not familiar, of course, I Left My Heart in San Francisco, one of his big songs.
Yeah, the man stuck to his guns. He stuck to what he knew he could do best. And he didn't try to make those big changes. Of course, he eventually got in with like Lady Gaga and stuff to try and to
stay relative,
stay more relevant. But what a great life. Thank you for sharing.
Passed away this morning.
Your talent. So
passed away this morning.
Yeah,
96 years old.
But on a slightly happier note, we have a special guest this week, Tim Kroll, coming on. He's going to tell us all about who he is, what he brings to the table, and how he helps business owners, get a good mindset, grow. I like his approach. I like what he does, obviously, because we've brought him on the show, and we only bring the high-level quality people on the show.
Either that or he had nothing else to do on a Friday.
Thank you for agreeing to come on the show 15 minutes ago. No.
That's it.
Here's my arm. You go ahead and twist it. I mean, I'm all good, man. It's good.
Welcome, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man. It's on it. Honestly, I love doing these things because you promised me that this was going to be a fun show. And, obviously tying in a little bit of serious play with a great show. I mean, I'm excited. Let's go, man. Let's have some fun.
And you'll learn I lie a lot.
Let go.
But anything to get somebody to convince them to come on the show, because it's challenging. I'm down to about 18 guests going forward.
That's it.
So
we're
blessed.
That's it.
We are blessed. But Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Because I'd rather have it come from you than me try to interpret all the things you do and who you are, because I'm not good at that.
Yeah. Do you want the highlight reel or do you want the real reel? Which one do you want?
Well, the idea is a little bit about who you are, because we really want to talk more about your business and what you do.
Yeah.
But we got to understand where you're coming from.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is too, and every time somebody asks me this, the reason why I ask that question is oftentimes we get on and we just talk about the highlights, and we always talk about, for the fact of I build a company, e-com company, we were doing $15 million a month, and everybody goes, ooh, ah, but you don't see all of the hard work and all of the sweat, the blood, the tears that goes behind trying to do something, or the fact that I was on Lego Masters with my son, and that was a big TV show, but you don't see all the hard work and the years and years of going into how you get to that point. So, as far as what, telling you a little bit about myself, the main point I guess I should really try to emphasize is I have a high value for my family. I want to make sure that I'm spending time with them. And then the second part of that is I really want to leave an impact and help people grow from where they're at to where they really want to get going.
Yeah. What season Lego Masters?
Season 2. We were on season 2. So officially we were known as the father-son duo of season 2. And so I was on there with my son, Zach. quite honestly, he's a much better Lego builder than I am. He understands it way better than I do, and he's an artist when it comes to building Lego.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't put two blocks together.
I can.
I'm sure you can.
I can step.
I step on the hell out of them. Thanks. I'll tell you that right now.
Outstanding. So you're talking about helping businesses, and I know you and I have had the conversation, but I'd rather come from you that you're helping like mindset.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the mindset. Let me kind of go into it this way. What I try to do is I try to bridge the gap between the strategies and theories to practical application. We've got 6,000 years of leadership, of mindset, of personal development. We've got all of this history. And I mean, going back to Aristotle and Socrates, we can really, truly study the concepts that they were trying to put out there. But quite often in our world today, we lose that practical application. And so I take Lego and I use that as a way to truly bridge that gap so we can understand really how do we apply this? How do we apply a positive mindset? How are we expressing gratitude? And how do we build healthy cultures within our organizations?
Wow, that's an interesting concept. Healthy cultures within an organization.
It's overrated.
It's never been said before.
It's kind of a new thing going on, that people are searching for, because we're tired of the old ways, tired of those old corporate ways and stuff. So that's outstanding. How do you go about doing this?
So a lot of it's interesting because I tell people, and it's hard for me to express in words, the feeling, the energies that you get when we do a Lego event, like a team building Lego event for your organization. Until you experience it, I can't even give you the depth of how powerful it is. And the only way I can really truly put it into words is to say, we take a spotlight and I'll shine that on your culture. And I can tell you within an hour of our doing a Lego event together, if you've got a healthy culture or if it's a toxic culture, because of the way that people interact with each other when they're doing and building. And again, we call it the serious play, but when they're actually playing with Lego in a conference room, and we put them in teams and we put stressful situations, and then we kind of change the rules, I can tell you within about an hour if you've got a healthy culture. And I can even identify, and I've got stories, we can back all this stuff up, but I can even identify which individuals are most likely not to stay with your company. In other words, they don't fit with your culture, so they're just kind of acting or posing, or they're trying to hide within the culture. And I can tell you pretty quick which ones they are.
Are those the people that jump over the table pissed off at the other people because they're winning?
Well, I haven't had that yet. I haven't had that yet. But yes.
So and the reason why I bring that up, I have a friend who's pretty high up at Morgan Stanley, and he had told me stories of that actually happening in meetings where people were getting upset with each other to the point where one time they jump over a table to attack the other person. It's like in the corporate structure.
Unfortunately, I have heard of that too. The one caveat that I would put into that, because I actually had that exact same situation happen we weren't doing Lego, but I had that exact same situation, and the individual, we ended up finding out there were some mental issues, and he had to get on some medication for a bipolar situation. So there's part of me that has compassion and empathy for sometimes when those things happen, but in the other hand, there's just toxic people, there's narcissists, there's people that are just, and so we got to look at what really is going on with that.
Those folks are very, very damaging to any size business.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's and that's the difficult part about hiring people. Like I've told my kids, when you go out and interview, be yourself, because don't try to fit in. Because if you try to fit in and you get the job, you may not like it. It may not be right for you. But if you're just being yourself, you have a better opportunity of finding a job that fits.
Of course, as we're cruising through this, you're going to see up on the screen right now, that's Tim's website there, business growth strategies for your team. If you want to, you see scrolling along the bottom, go to Tim Kroll, that's TIMCROLL.com, and peruse through that while we're talking here in the next 40, 50
Yeah, there's
minutes.
a lot of great information on there. I've been reading it myself.
Yeah. So how much do you want to dig into this hiring the right person, because I've got a lot of information on that I use from Lego. Or we can go down a different path. I'm going to leave it up to you.
Let me ask a question. You're a lot of our listenership are small business entrepreneurs. So,
Right.
I'm going to say 50 employees or less. Right.
Yeah, and hiring's hard right now, right?
And hiring is very hard. Is that who you're kind of geared toward? And do you approach things differently if it is a small business like that, a small entrepreneur, to some a huge corporation like Charles Schwab or whatever?
Yeah. So here's where I would, because you're basically what you're asking me for is the demographic, like who specifically do I target? And in that targeting, I look more at mindset than I do at the actual size of the company. In other words, are they teachable? Do they want to grow? And do they want to learn how to become better?
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't want a client that doesn't want any of those things,
right?
And getting
exactly. But to the point, to what you're stating here, I look at it, and I have a program. It's called Building Blocks, and inside of the Building Blocks, we really focus on the 5 levels of leadership. And the first level is leading yourself. And I don't care if you're a small business or you're a CEO, there's always ways to have improvement in and around your leadership. So if you learn to lead yourself, the second building block is learning to lead as a manager, and you manage things, not people. Then you lead your followers, then you lead your leaders, and then you lead as a mentor. So each one of those components that we talk about, it's built and engineered not for the size of the business. Now, there are differences and challenges that a small business owner encounters compared to a corporate. But at the end of the day, the principles are going to be the same, whether you're a small family-owned company with 10 employees or less, or you're a large corporation attempting to do a multi-million-dollar acquisition or merger. The challenges are exactly the same. Scale is different, but the challenges are the same.
Well, I love the fact that you talk a lot about leadership, and you're not sitting here saying, I teach leadership specifically, but that is an important aspect of what you do, because we know there's not a lot of leadership being taught out there. You get promoted, but you get promoted into a position where you're managing more people, more money, and whatnot. But you're not prepared, right? And
I would say this is the biggest tragedy. That's the biggest tragedy in the United States at this moment. We go to college and we get business degrees, we get administration degrees, we get marketing degrees, we get all kinds of different types of degrees, but we neglect the emotional intelligence or the soft skills of how to become a leader.
Totally, 100%. And we don't get the $10,000 relief either anymore.
Yeah. When you say soft skills, what are you referring to as a leader?
Okay, so some people call it the EQ, the emotional intelligence, but I actually like to look at it on a holistic standpoint. The one thing that I can tell you, and I've watched and worked with a lot of leaders, as the business grows, if you don't develop yourself, the business will do one of two things: either outgrow you or it will implode. Now, sometimes it's both and rather than either or, because I have watched individuals make millions of dollars in a year, and then the next year they've actually it's all gone. Or I've also watched where, for example, you just talked about, Bill, somebody got promoted into a position and they've been there for years and years and years, let's say 10 plus years, and the company continues to outgrow them in a way that they haven't continued to develop their own personal skills, talents, their emotional intelligence, their leadership skills, communication, team building. There's actually, so when I talk, there's actually 16 different traits that you can actually encompass within a leadership. Of those 16, I usually work on 8 of them are competence, and another 8 are specifically about character issues like honesty, integrity, those kinds of things.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's hard, right? Because you've got a bunch of egos. I'm the business owner.
Yeah.
I know it all.
I built this.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
I got this.
And it's so counterintuitive to the United States or the American way, because we have this whole, and I get angry at it sometimes, but we have this John Wayne mentality where it's, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. Nowhere in all of our time have we ever had that kind of a philosophy that has been more damaging because, well, let me rephrase that. I have to give a little bit of credit. During World War I and World War II, this whole pull myself up by my bootstraps idea and concept was necessary due to the fact of the way things were, the way the society was. Now that we've adapted and adjust, that philosophy has become more damaging than it actually has been helpful. So we need to shift and adjust away from that more into an understanding that we need to do this as a community.
I got to stop saying, come on, boys, get a glove, get in the game.
Yeah, right.
We're right along those same lines, but I've used that, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get back in the game. You know, you got knocked down, get up. Let's get back.
And some of that is good. I mean, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because we don't want to live in a victim mentality. We don't want to be in the part that the whole world owes us, because we do have to give. We have to be mature enough emotionally to be able to have a little bit of a thick skin and say, look, I am going to, and this is a whole nother concept too, I'm going to truly craft and create my own story, and I'm not going to allow somebody else to dictate who it is that I'm going to be. And especially in business, we've got way too much going on with people telling us how to run a business, when it's like, dude, you need to just step up and run your business and craft your story based on your skills, your talent, and the way that you were designed.
It is funny because we do have a couple of mindsets here. You know, the one is I'm the one building it, and I don't want anybody else to know about what I'm doing, you know, because we've been taught that. You know, keep it close to the vest, because the people closest to us were the ones who were going to try to drag you down. But then the other part of leadership is, you know, I've had friends literally with me building my new business come to me and say, you know, they spend the first hour telling me how I should be building a business, even though they've never built a business in their life. Yep. And I've been telling people how to build a business for 3 years now on a radio show, and other entities, but then the second hour rolls around, and then they're trying to tell me how they would fit in and want a job. And I'm like, okay, first of all, folks, if you're going to tell me how to build and run my business, and then you want to work for me, that's not going to go very well.
Well, and Tim, as you talk about culture, that's not in my business plan. I've gone to the SBA. I've gone to the local place. I'm doing a business plan, and no place on this plan does it talk about culture. So is culture something that just happens, or is it something that you have to create?
So yes to both of those questions. And the other big weight is nothing will impact your business more than your culture. People, whomever it is that's going to be working for you, is going to be the culture, which then forms and really it makes your brand. I mean, your culture is going to become that brand. So two things on that. You asked me the question, so let me clarify when I say yes to both. Mm-hmm. Think about it when you have a child. That child is going to grow whether you help, teach, and train the child, or if you don't. I don't care which way it goes. That child is going to grow. Same concept for your culture. Now, there's an interesting structure in and around culture. I liken to it this way. Your job is to create that healthy environment, just like you would within a garden. You want to cultivate the dirt. You want to put in some fertilizer. You want to be able to make sure it's watered, that you have the right plants. You weed out the toxic people, those kinds of things. So you want to create the environment, but at the end of the day, that culture is going to grow. Your job is to create the environment so that it grows in a way that you want it to. Yeah. Now, there's lots of ways to be able to do that, but I'm going to tell you this. At the end of the day, culture is nothing more than you developing relationships with your employees. And the way that you develop those relationships will create the bond that happens within an organization. And again, I've watched businesses that had one toxic individual. In fact, the individual I'm thinking about, he's out of Pennsylvania. He had a guy that was with him, best friend for 10 years. One individual was bringing down an organization that had about 15 to 20 employees at any given time. And it wasn't until he fired that individual. He called me that night. He fired him. He's sitting in his warehouse, and he was in tears. He's like, this was my best friend. I can't believe I had to fire him. But as soon as he fired him, come in the next day, it was like an entirely different environment because of one individual. And that now has grown from a $250,000 a year company to a 1.5, almost a $2 million company now, because of his mentality and the fact that he took charge and he took ownership for his culture. And I can keep going, but this is a passion.
That's not a good best friend.
No,
Yeah.
no, but okay. But in defense, when they started as an owner, he had made a lot of promises to this friend. If you stick with me, I will do X, Y, Z. And if you do this, so let's go back to this whole mentality. And this is where it all ties in together. Remember when I said as a company grows, sometimes people that are put in positions don't grow with that company. Business owner made extreme promises to his best friend, and then the company continued to grow. Best friend did not grow with the company. So it was a good fit at the time. As the company grew, the best friend didn't, and all of a sudden, this best friend became embittered. He became very toxic. He became like, "Hey, no, we don't need to do it that way. We don't need to change this." And so that's where the relationship split. So again, remember, you have to grow with the organization, both as a leader and an owner, as a business owner, but also as somebody within that organization. You have to continue to grow, and that comes through personal development, and I have 4 pillars of personal development: physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially. Those are the 4 key areas where you really have to grow. And I've got lots of stuff in and around that. But it was just as much the business owner's mistake in creating that environment as it was the employee that turned extremely toxic.
That's what a business owner has, because when you're starting off a business, you're micromanaging because you're into every aspect of it, right? Because it's just you. Or maybe just you and a partner and stuff, and you're both kind of micromanaging. But as you grow, I think one of the important things is, and the people that I've talked to that I'm looking to work with, I said, look, once you come on, I'm bringing you on because you're very, very good at what you do, and I'm going to let you do what you do. I'm just here to support you, when you have questions, and that builds, I think, a better environment, working environment. But
well, yeah. So I'm in my mid 50s now for the last couple of days, right? And when I hear the word culture, I go to a company that sounds like Schmoogle, right?
Schmoogle.
And hey, you got granola, we've got bean bags. You know what I mean? So now when I hear Tim talking about culture, I'm thinking, man, I got to have free ice cream machines, and I've got to have some Miss Pac-Mans, and I've got to have everything that's counterintuitive in my mind to my business because I need a good culture.
That's not what I mean when I'm talking about culture. I mean, I'm glad that you say that, but let me give it to you this way. If you have a healthy culture, you have committed employees, not compliant employees.
I love it.
So that's a really interesting concept that we don't talk about especially when we're talking about culture, because a lot of times we have our values, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's teamwork, sometimes whatever. We can always have our company values, but then how do those actually get fleshed out? And that's, again, I'm going to go back to the Lego. We use Lego as a way to shine a spotlight, and I can tell pretty quickly if your employees are committed or if they're just compliant. Yeah. And in another way, I'll give you another example. I work with a company out of Toronto, and I knew that their companies were committed when we went through that. And then the story came out about how they had a tractor trailer full of product that they had to hand unload and then reload into their storage. They didn't have any fork trucks or anything else. The entire staff put a pause on what they were doing and came down to help on a job that they didn't need to do because they were committed to the company. It's those kinds of things that tell you that you've done a great job at creating this committed culture and the loyalty aspect. And that goes back into, we've all heard it, money doesn't motivate, or they don't leave the job because of money. If they leave because of a boss, or they leave because of a person. That's
2 generations old.
Yeah, that's a direct correlation to your culture. I mean, it's a direct tie-in to how healthy your culture is.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been in finance 37, 38 years now. And I was in the trading pits for 20 years. And my father always looked at me and he said, I don't understand. Money has never motivated you, yet you're in the business of money.
Yeah.
I said, it's the game. It wasn't about the money. It was about the game. But it was also, in essence, there was a little bit about the money because I was always prone to take positions that had unlimited upside potential.
Sure.
In other words, sales, commissions, things like that. But I want to ask you this, Tim. How does diversity fit into what you're doing?
Oh,
It's a big topic, right? And it's
Well, we've
actually
got what, 5
backfiring.
minutes left?
It's backfiring on a lot of businesses.
No, we roll for an hour here, buddy. We've got 30.
Okay, good.
Get out.
We can actually dive into this. I love this topic. Here's the challenge that we're running into today. We have taken a lot of our English words and we've redefined them to fit whatever it is that we want it to fit at this exact moment, right? So
yeah, or rename things. Yeah,
100%. I mean, like, we just take words and then we just say that, and we can. Let me just give you a simple, innocent example. If I call something pop and I go down south, what do they call it? Soda. Or east, west, whatever. Some people call it a Coke. I mean, we just adapt this language of words that to me means one thing, but to somebody else it might mean something different, right? So let me go down this road here. There is a need for diversity when it's based on individuality.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
On the other hand, if we're just being diverse just for the sake of, hey, I need to hire somebody, and so because I'm white and I'm a male, it's going to check a box, but I'm not the most talented for that, I should not be hired for that. Correct. Not in any way when it comes to it. So we need to go back to, when we say diversity, we need to look at, and here's a great example on the diversity aspect. I don't want to bring in somebody who's an extreme extrovert who can talk really well and get all kinds of sales and put him into an accountant position. He will be or she will be absolutely miserable because their personality is they have to talk to people. That's where they find their energy. They're an extrovert. On the other hand, I don't want to take an accountant who's an introvert who loves to look at all of the numbers and Excel spreadsheets and put them in a sales position where they have to talk to somebody every day because their skill sets are not, that's not how we do it, right? So let's get back to looking at what's your skill set, what's your talents, are you the best personality for the job? Do you fit within our culture as far as our value statements, as far as our mission? I don't want to hire somebody just because, and I can even tell you this, the healthy, mature, emotional individual doesn't want to be hired because of the color of their skin. They don't want to be hired. Yeah, they don't want to be hired because they're looking at it and saying, well, that's not my value. And okay, we're going to be a little controversial, but I think this is really good. When we were on Lego Masters, we had a couple of individuals that were lesbians, and Lego Masters wanted to define their role as lesbian, not as a Lego builder. Yeah. And she said, absolutely not. I am a Lego builder first. That's why I'm here. I'm not going to come on here and talk about being a lesbian and doing all of this other stuff, because here is our purpose as a Lego master. I'm going to come and I'm going to build, and I'm going to put the best product out there that I can because I'm a Lego builder. I'm an AFOL, which is an adult fan of Lego. That's my identity. And yet the association, the people that were trying to cast wanted to put this story on her. And I'm super proud of her for standing up and saying that, because she was like, no, this is my identity. I am a builder. I am a Lego builder, and this is what I'm going to come across as. So, I mean, kudos to her for sticking to her guns. And I like I said, a lot of respect for her.
You know what, Tim? The problem is, I think part of the problem is that business owners feel compelled to diversify their employee status, right? They need a little bit of everything. And they feel they need that. I mean, if I start a new business, I can't go out and hire 10 white guys that are 55 to 65 years old and that's building my business and not expect, because in my mind, I would feel like that is going to probably come back to haunt me.
Right. But that's where we've changed the word.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me go down. There's two things on this. Number one, I would ask you, if I was coaching or consulting with you and you said I can't go hire somebody, I would ask the reason why. And then I would take you back to your mission and your value statement. If your value statement states that I just need to be all things to all people, well, very good. That's your company. I can tell you it's not going to succeed, because we all know when you're all things to all people, you're nothing to nobody. Right. But if your mission and your value states that I need experience of guys that have gone through, I'm opening a consulting practice, and if I hire 20-year-olds into this consulting practice, people are going to look at it and say, well, you don't know nothing because you haven't been through anything. Right, there's been no hard knocks. There's been no trauma, no bankruptcy. There's nothing there. So I need to hire 50 to 60-year-old guys because that's my business value. That's my mission. Right. So that's the first thing that I would take you back to.
Okay.
Second thing is this. In our society right now, we have got narratives coming at us from every angle. And I'll give you a couple of examples, and I'm just going to use my own personal life as an example. When I was growing up, the number one thing that in order for me to be successful, I had to do two things. I had to go get a college degree and I had to go work in a corporate office. That's what was pounded in my head to be successful. My heart and soul is an entrepreneur. I am like a rebel when it comes to all this kind of stuff. And so the false narrative that was being pounded in my head by society at that point in time was to do this and follow that path. But everything in me was going in the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
So I had to come to grips with this false narrative of go to college, work at a corporation, do all that kind of stuff. And I was absolutely freaking miserable. And I had to break away and then start to create and craft and write my own story and craft my narrative for that. And so the business owners tie that all in. If you're getting hit with this whole diversity of you've got to do it this way, I'm like, why? Why do we have to be compliant to a narrative that is not mine to write? I'm going to write my own narrative. I'm going to be different. And I mean, I can give you multiple examples right now today that have happened over the last 2 or 3 weeks of individuals that have stuck to their narrative, stuck to their values. And is it hard? Heck, yes. And they're going to get a lot of heat and a lot of hate, but sticking to your narratives, that's what's going to leave a legacy behind. That's what's going to make you different and stand out in the world of all of these other wannabe businesses.
Yeah. So I've been in the financial industry and banking for 25 some odd years. And when I was in a hiring position, people would come in and they, everybody's a professional interviewer. And I would just say, hey, just sit down. This is going to be the strangest interview you ever had. We're just going to get to know each other because we're going to spend a lot of time together. A trained monkey can do this job, but we got to be able to get along.
Yeah.
Right. And so my interviews were always, tell me about you, get to know. It wasn't, tell me a time when you had to sell a pen. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. So
how do you see yourself in 5 years?
And I had people go, I came in with all these answers and you didn't ask one of these questions.
Well, what you were doing there, I'm sure people have read Jim Collins, The Good to Great, and all of the concepts there. And he really kind of made it popular, this whole, the right person in the right seat.
Yeah.
So by default, that gives us 4 options. We have the right person in the wrong seat. We have the wrong person in the right seat, or we have the wrong person in the wrong seat. So there's basically 4 options in that, right? So we know pretty much if it's the wrong person in the wrong seat, we know what to do. We need to let them go. Get them out.
Yeah.
The right person, by definition, is the person that fits your culture. It fits with the values, the mission, the vision of the company. The right seat is based off of skill, talent, expertise. It's what can they do to be able to make that role within your organizational chart a more successful role? Are they able to basically move the ball forward? And so you want to make sure that they are a good fit, the right person in the right seat, and base your hiring decisions off of that rather than, and sometimes we have the wrong person in the right seat. And a great example of that is a lot of times we have sales guys that do not align with values. So for example, if one of your values is honesty and integrity, and the sales guy is making a lot of sales by being dishonest or sharing things that he's not supposed to, wrong guy, right seat, because his numbers are going to be off the chart. He's going to be the best sales guy there. And those are the ones that I find, especially when I coach or consult with businesses, those are the hardest ones for people to be willing to separate out.
Yeah.
But until they actually do, they don't realize how toxic that individual is and how often that is dragging down the rest of the sales force.
But he or she is my cash cow. That's the hard part about making that shift and that change. And I agree with you, because that's an extremely important role in any business. But
until you can understand this, though, that cash cow. So let's say you have, and I'll just use a number for illustration purposes. Let's say that cash cow is bringing in $100,000 a month, and you have that bet that that's going to be your thing. What 9 times out of 10, and this is really, I can't remember who said this. It might have been Simon Sinek. I can't remember, but they said, to the extent your culture will only be whatever it is that you're willing to tolerate. And I'm misquoting that horrendously, but the main point is this: is if you're willing to tolerate dishonesty and you're willing to tolerate shady play and you're willing to tolerate all of these goofy things that that means the other 10 salespeople are not going to be able to ever reach their full potential, because that one guy is holding back or actually putting a roadblock, a barrier for those 10 other guys. So what if those 10 other guys are able to now do $50,000 a month as opposed to one guy doing $100,000? You now have $500,000 a month in gross revenue because 10 guys are now able to operate freely within their realm and inside of their culture. And I'm telling you, your customers will see a difference, and you'll get repeats. You'll get all kinds of stuff. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, because I want to back up a little bit here. And I agree with you, but I want to back up a little bit here because now we're talking about a more well-established business, right? Probably a medium-sized type business, but for entrepreneurs starting up 5, 10 employees and things, I don't know that this is even on the radar, to be honest with you. I mean, you think about building a business. Yeah, the culture thing. I mean, when I started my business, this new one, we put a business plan together. We have a mission statement. We do not have a value statement, but we do have an idea of what and how we want to build it and how we want the culture to be. We talk about how we don't want the single corporate ladder where people fight each other and do things behind each other's backs. We want more of a lattice type fence where there's different directions that you can go.
You want collaboration.
You want collaboration and you want allow people. But here's the important thing too. When you're moving people up and you're moving and shifting them in your business, you have to provide support. It's not just, I'm going to move you into this position because I think you're a great person. I think you'll do a good job. Now have at it. They have to have support.
So what type of a support are you talking about though? Because in my mind, there's two different types of support. We have systematic processing and we have personal development. And if you don't take both of those, when you move a person into let's say a management or a leadership position, if you're not doing both of those, what you're doing is literally setting that person up for failure. If they do not have systematic processes, in other words, let's say it's a customer service thing and you have to answer so many emails, whatever, you can create those processes. And that's what the vast majority of business trainers, college education, that's what you get is those processes. I have a bookshelf full of EOS with traction. I mean, I've got growth wheel. I've got so many different processes that I can teach you. But if we're not developing the individual at the same time, then we are setting them up for failure. Specifically, they're going to fail.
I 100% agree, and I think the higher up they go, that it's even gets more and more valuable. But it's valuable at every level. It's valuable at every level. But at the highest levels, we have a tendency to, and we've had conversations. The CEOs and they said the one thing a CEO rarely ever has is he doesn't have anybody to talk to. He doesn't have anybody to bounce. He or she doesn't have any idea. People to bounce ideas off of, thoughts, direction.
I'm going to tell you, coaching. A coach is worth. I don't know what most people pay for coaching. I know what I charge, but I don't know what most people pay. But I'm telling you right now, if you're paying a coach, that is going to be the most valuable investment that you're ever going to make, because they will be able to a true coach. Now, one is you want to resonate with that coach. Two is you have to have the same value. So resonate, in other words, you have to be able to have a kind of similar vibe, and always interview your coach as a mentee or as a mentor. You always want to do that. And two, always make sure our values align. Once that's completed, the coach's job is to draw out your greatness. And so as a CEO or if you're the leader, you have to think about, and that's why I have the fourth point of leaders, learning how to lead leaders. That's part of the building blocks. And you really have to be able to understand how to draw out that greatness. In other words, you're going to walk them through the first three building blocks, which is learning to lead yourself, learning to lead as a manager, which is controlling time, priorities, setting the right goals. And then the third one is leading followers. And in leading followers, once you start to understand the concepts of how to influence versus manipulation, and using influence as a way to, as Napoleon Hill, I think it was Napoleon Hill's, win friends and influence family. Those are, I probably messed that up, but I'm speaking from the heart, you know.
Yeah, no, we get it. Totally.
Yeah, so that's where you really have, as a leader, one, you need to be coaching your leaders, even if it's just one other person in your organization. And then you also need to invest in your own coaches and in your own personal development. Because if you're not doing both of those things, it's very difficult for you to grow as a business owner, because you get tied up. And here's the other caution. This is the thing that I've watched happen most often. Most people come back and say, you just don't understand. I'm always putting out fires. I'm always dealing with trials. I'm always dealing with this mess or that mess. What you are doing is reacting to the situation.
Yep.
Once you flip that mindset and are now proactive, Stephen Covey piloted this whole idea. Once you now become proactive, you'll be amazed at the amount of time that you get back. And when you're not, go ahead. You're going to say something.
People are wired. They're people are typically pre-wired, that I've noticed, is they're either reactive type folks or they're proactive type folks. But I love what he said. You know, you need to learn how to lead leaders. I hadn't heard that before. I really like that. But when you talk about coaches, that's a tough one, because there's a lot of coaches out there. And I think for the first time in the history of mankind, there are more coaches out there than financial advisors.
I would agree.
You know, but there's all kinds of coaches, right? I've talked to people. Well, I teach you how to have a healthier body, therefore a healthier mind, therefore you feel better, you make better decisions.
Well,
there's all kinds of coaches out there.
I don't think you have a problem with a coach. I think you have a problem with the word coach, right?
I do too.
Right?
Yeah,
because now everybody. Oh well, hey,
I say financial advisor.
I'm a health coach. I'm a this coach. I'm a that coach. Well, what makes you that? Yeah. Well, I got into this pyramid thing.
Yeah, I bring up.
I actually was very hesitant for years to call myself a coach.
Yeah,
I mean, when I say years, I mean like probably a good 10 years. People say, "What do you do?" And I try to explain it as consulting, and I try to explain it as I kind of walk with you. And then I really started to dig in and understand what a coach actually does. And again, it's that ability to see into you and start to pull out your greatness. Now, you may not like me at times when I coach individuals. I've got people that are looking at me like, dude, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, this is what's going to get you to the next level. And some coaches aren't willing to do that, say the hard things. But when you can truly, again, do your homework, don't just sign up for the course that looks the flashiest or the guy that's the biggest guru or whatever. Do your homework, and a good coach will tell you to do that. And another thing a good coach will tell you is that I'm not for everybody. There are people that I've interviewed and I'm like, dude, we're not aligned. Like, we're just
I mean, when you think of you think of a Bobby Knight. I'm using sports analogies now.
Yeah.
Right?
I love this story. Go ahead.
Right?
You go right to Bobby Knight.
You think of a Bobby Knight. Of course, I can go to Dean Smith, right?
No, do Bobby Knight. I like Bobby Knight. Stay with Bobby Knight.
So Bobby Knight, if you looked from the outside, a total D-bag, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, God, this guy, he's throwing chairs, he's loud, he's obnoxious,
screaming at kids,
choking. You know what I mean? We've all heard the stories. But every one of his players would take a bullet for him, right?
Yep.
Because of he brought the best out of those teams. He brought the best out of the individuals, and they respected him.
So compare him to one of his prodigies, which is Coach K.
Yeah, right.
And look at the difference in the coaching styles between Bobby Knight and Coach K.
Yep.
And I love this illustration. The way that Bobby Knight coached was very much that World War I, World War II style. And what Coach K has done is he's really adapted and brought in some of the other understandings of what our society is more like today than what Bobby Knight was doing. So you can see their hearts were their hearts are exactly the same. I mean, you look at the fact of Coach K has a ton of respect for Bobby and he speaks very highly of him. But yet we look at it from the outside and we're like, dude, that I personally wouldn't have put up with that. There's no way I would have.
No, apparently nobody got to.
But at the same time,
football coach. So.
But at the same time, those closed practices, Coach K was not the mild-mannered Bruce Wayne.
You're absolutely right.
Right? I mean, he reached in there and grabbed him. I think some of the when you're well networked, as you are, Bill, and I'm sure you are, Tim, and everybody's a coach, we tend to look at them and go, you can't coach yourself out of a paper bag.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you're like, and so we have some of those preconceived notions, like you can't even balance your own checkbook. How are you going to tell me to run my business?
And here's the important thing about that, okay? And
Yeah.
here's what is so valuable in networking if you know how to do it right.
Yeah.
And that is you've got to get rid of preconceived notions. I tell people, look, I can sit there in a room of 45 people on a screen in a networking event and on Zoom, and I can tell you that 30 of them are miserable. They're not good at what they do. All they try to do is sell. They don't try to develop relationships.
Yep.
You can read what they put in the chat box, and that it's a sell. And those people are not going to be successful. But if you take the time to meet with these people individually, you will learn so much more.
Sure.
You will learn the fact that, okay, it may appear to you that they're pushing so hard to sell, and it may be because they're desperate. It may be because they're not doing well, but it doesn't mean they aren't good at what they do. It just means they aren't good at the marketing. They aren't good at the sales side of things because.
Well, here's and I've not worked with Tim, but from his website at Tim Kroll, that's TIMCROLL.com, and just spending some time here with him, being in Shared Connections a couple times with him, is a coach cares more about you than them. And we all know those coaches who are like, hey, I coach Tim Kroll. He's successful. Hey, I'm doing it for me. I have the, opportunity to be an athletic coach. And now I'm doing it at a collegiate level. And to me, it's never about me. It's about those players. It's about, them coming back 15 years from now and say, hey, coach, you said this. Thanks.
So,
right?
Well, so here's the thing about networking. So this funny little ditty happened this week. A guest of our show, Laura Di Benedetto.
Yeah.
She started the ammo business.
Yeah.
I introduced her to a gentleman I had met who owns 2 gun ranges and is opening up a 3rd in another state. And he was looking for a source. I put them together. She reaches out to me and she says, oh my God, Bill, we just signed a contract. She goes, this is outstanding. I'm expanding my business. I'm just so excited. What can I do for you? And I said, nothing.
Yeah.
And she came back. She goes, no. I need to do something for you. I go, no, you don't. What you need to learn is that it's okay for somebody else to help you.
Yeah.
So you spending all your time helping others. And now you know what it feels like for the people you help.
Yep. Great author. We've had her on the show.
Yeah. She's outstanding person. And that's networking.
Right.
You know, I don't expect anything in return. I said, look, I sent an email.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
How hard was that?
I can tell. I haven't worked with him yet, right? But I can tell with Tim, his vibe and his energy is, I'm excited to see you win, right?
Yeah.
And build you, if we can use the Lego, build that. And to me, that's what's fascinating. Is I think Tim and Play Well Coaching is, if you want to win and you think maybe you're stuck or whatever, or even if you don't think you're stuck but you want to elevate it, you got this guy. I'm going to tell you what, he'll step on the Legos for you.
So one of the networking groups I attend, Tim is involved with that group as well, and I'd seen him many times, but I never really got to know who he was or what he did or anything like that. And I'm sitting there going, why not? What has compelled me to not want to reach out and learn more about him on a one-to-one level? And when I did, I just went, boom. I said, holy cow. What held me back from doing that earlier? But
well, you're probably a Wolverine fan, aren't you? What are you?
Yeah, you're over there.
You mean like a Red Dawn Wolverine fan? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Or are you a Spartan guy? Which one are you?
So I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I'm more of a PA kind of a guy on that side of things.
Right.
The Philadelphia Eagles, the Philadelphia Phillies, Penn State, that whole.
Right.
Yeah, we always love to see them lose. That's cool.
That's right.
But
but I think the biggest thing too, and you're talking about the fact of. And that's why I said you have to resonate with whomever it is that you hire to be able to have as a coach. You need to be able to, and I think people feel that if they're in it for themselves and they're in it for the talking head and, hey, come look at what I've done, you're going to sense that pretty quickly. And that's where you really need to not get caught up in all of the marketing and all of the fancy speech and everything else. And just like, hey, let's have a relationship. Let's build this relationship and go from there.
Yeah. Beware the person who seeks fame and fortune. You know, those aren't the people I want to associate with, at least personally. It's more about just doing good things, doing right things, connecting with people, creating a good culture environment and such. Just like with the business we're building, we don't really have titles. We're all called collaborators.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody collaborates towards one common goal, and you need to continue to emphasize that goal to keep it forefront, saying, here's why we're here. As a lot of times corporate world doesn't tell you why, because they don't care. I'm paying you. You do what I tell you to do. You don't need to know why. And you don't like it.
I need to say something about that.
Yeah.
There's something very specific. The reason you say why is to generate belief.
Yes.
So without belief, you don't have committed individuals. So you tell them why, and when an individual understands why, they now have belief in your vision and your mission. Otherwise, it's just compliance, and it's just something that somebody says, okay, I'm going to check a box and I'm done with. You need to have the why to generate the belief to be able to have commitment.
Yep. The buy-in.
Yeah.
As we call it. But yeah, I think that's very, very important. But I don't know if it's that common.
Right.
It's not.
It's not.
So what are some of the things that I would want to have in my mindset if I'm out looking for a coach? Because now all of a sudden you got me excited. Now I know I know I need a coach.
TimKroll.com. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the very first thing is you need to know, like, for example, you talked about sports coaching, dieting coaching, physical coaching. There's definitely different people that have different skill sets. And if they say they're good at everything, they're not. They're definitely not. So I would say the very first step is to know what it is that you need. What area do you need growth in?
Yeah.
Whether it's a personal development, a mental development, to be frank, a lot of the people that I work with are those that want both a business growth and a personal growth, and they want to combine those two because, frankly, business is personal. This whole statement about, sorry, it's not personal, it's just business, that's bull. I mean, that's complete bull, because business is personal, and everything that happens in business is going to affect your personal life and vice versa. So you want to make sure that you know the area of growth that you're in. The second thing, and this is key, is you got to make sure that you have a discovery call with that individual to make sure that you guys resonate, and then do the research on, do they have their values? You can go to the about page on mine, and I list out all 4 of my values, and I can spout them off. I know exactly what I stand for. I know where I'm going to draw my lines, and I'm going to tell you that. And sometimes we don't fit. Sometimes I tell people we're just not a good fit. So that's when you're looking for a coach, that's the way to really dial it in. Go ahead.
I'm a business owner, Tim. I got an ego. I don't know that
you have a Lego.
I don't really know that I need help, but I know I'm not the jack of all trades, but I can pretty much take care of everything. So why would I want to talk to a coach?
Most people, when they come and they talk to me, it's like, hey, I need help with my marketing. I need more sales. Very rarely do people come to me and say, hey, Tim, I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders and I don't know what to do. But in essence, that's exactly what we get to, because I have had grown men, your age, my age, they literally sit there and they cry because they've been, you just said about the earlier, and you said the CEO has nobody to talk to. And I think that's a doggone shame, because our society has isolated individuals so badly that they believe that they are alone and they have nobody else to talk to. And unless you purposely break that mold and break that lie, you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. There are people out there willing to help, whether it is within your own personal life to try to get things back together. And unfortunately, and I say this too, the line that divides success and a nervous breakdown is razor thin. And often we don't know that we've gone and crossed over into a nervous breakdown until it's too late.
Oh, you kind of weave back and forth there for a while, I would imagine.
Well, the other thing is, to me, is in our society, we when you hear the word coach, when you have somebody like
help.
Tim, right? No, it's we think that they're a doctor. We don't go to them until that's our last resort.
You're sick. Yep.
Yeah. Right. So, oh my gosh, I'm struggling in my business. I better get a coach. And then the coach didn't fix it. Well, the coach isn't. So, I mean, you don't start a football team, basketball team, whatever, without a coach. Right. And, I can go out and recruit all day long for this team, but if they don't like the coach, they're not going to come play.
Yeah.
Right.
If you need to use the word mentor or guru or whatever else, I mean, some people, they feel more akin to those words. It's basically the same thing.
Yep.
But we're taught to keep things internal.
Yeah.
Our generation, my generation, we were keep things close to the vest, keep things to yourself. That asking for help and seeking help is a sign of weakness. And yet now you ask anybody what they love most about what they do, ultimately they'll answer will come down to, I love helping people. And I feel that in some way, shape, or form, what I do helps people.
It's a false narrative that we have to break.
Oh, we're not accepting of receiving help.
It's a false narrative that we have to break as individuals, and as a society, we have to break that. Otherwise, again, the conclusion of that, it always comes back to this conclusion, which I believe is the greatest lie, is that we are alone and no one else has ever gone through what it is that we're going through.
Oh yeah,
right.
So let me leave you with this, because a lot of people talk about the personal growth. There are 4 areas for personal growth. Your physical area, because you got to keep your energy up. Mentally, you got to continue to educate yourself. Socially, you've got to develop those relationships around you. And then spiritually, and that internal side of things, we often neglect, but it's the most powerful way to be able to regenerate your energy on a lot of different ways. And there's different ways we can talk about all 4 of those, but those are the 4 key areas for personal development that if you hit all 4 of those areas, you're going to grow and you're going to become a stronger leader.
I love it. Tim Kroll, outstanding conversation. I can't believe an hour is up.
Yep.
But a great conversation. I love it. I hope folks can understand now. Maybe we can get some of the society to change their mindset and understand that getting help is a good thing. It's a beneficial thing. It'll help you live a happier life.
With a unique way of doing it.
What's that?
With
Lego.
With Lego.
There you go.
We make it fun.
I know we kind of flopped all over the place for you, Tim, but I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming out and helping us have this conversation. It's probably not even the direction you thought it was going to go.
No, but it's the most powerful of what we needed to have. And I feel like, especially if we can even break one false narrative, and if one person replies and says, look, I've got a better way, then I feel like this has been a success.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. That's my goal each and every week. But again, Tim Kroll, TIMCROLL.com. Check him out. This guy he's not the jack of all trades. He knows, he's very specific in what he can do and how he can help you. And if you're a business leader, trust me, you don't know it all. And you want to be able to get over these next humps. That's what this show is about, is teaching people how to get over that next hump, that next challenge as you grow your business. So thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Really appreciate it.
Good work, guys. Hey, stick around. More good stuff on 21.6 The Net.